What's up everyone, my name is Michael Pohl with Bay Area Aquatics, and today we're going to be talking about my 10-gallon White Cloud Mountain Minnow and Cherry Shrimp tank. Alright, so this is actually one of my favorite tanks that I have. It's one of the tanks that I don't mess with very much, at least I haven't lately, just because I like the way it looks, I like the way it's kind of growing in, I like the stocking of it, and I like everything else about it, I guess. I think it's a really simple tank. I do need to move some plants around and get the microsort up to the front a little more. It kind of grew backwards versus in the front like I wanted. But as far as the tank, it looks real good. I'm real happy with it. And I don't have too many problems with the tank. It's a pretty easy tank. Everyone likes to look at it. And it gets a lot of compliments from people because the shrimp are interesting and the minnows are interesting, especially when I have the pond of them out on the porch. People always ask me what's in the pond, and I can just bring them into this tank and go, these are the fish that are in the pond, but this is from the side view versus seeing the little things flying around in the pond. As far as stocking this tank, I have 9 White Cloud Mountain Minnows in there currently. I had like 12 or 13. I pulled a couple out and put them back in the pond, and just kind of, I've brought some in, brought some out, brought some in, taken some to sell, and all sorts of stuff. So right now there's 9 of them in there, and there's a whole bunch of cherry shrimp. I pull from this tank maybe 2 or 3 times a month, or 2 or 3 bags of 6 a month. I don't pull that much from it. And I have a second tank of them, but this is my primary shrimp breeding tank. As far as equipment on the tank, I am running a 10-gallon tank with black silicone edges. I've got a NICRU LED light, which is okay. It's done this tank fair, but it's not my favorite LED light. I prefer the beams work, but I don't like throwing away stuff that works. So until this light breaks, I'm sticking with it. I've got a small sponge filter that suction cups to the side with the dual little sponges on it. That's powered by an Aquarium Co-op USB air pump. And then I'm running a 75-watt cobalt heater, their new Neo thing or whatever, that I picked up a couple months ago. As far as substrate, I'm running black diamond blasting material. I run this in most of my tanks. I like the darker substrates, and I just chose to run in the shrimp tank. I run black backgrounds. I like the black substrate, and I think it looks really nice together. As far as hardscape, I have a whole bunch of dragonstone and wood in here. It's hard to see because it's covered in the moss, but I wanted some sort of cave structure style that was big enough that the shrimp could really live in there and start breeding and stay safe from the minnows. I know that some of them get eaten. There's a little bit of predation. It's not that big of a deal. Like I said, I'm not breeding these for like a wholesaler or anything. I just bring them and take them to the club, and I like seeing the breeding keep up. So I do have that big massive rock. There's probably 25 to 30 pounds of dragonstone in there, along with some driftwood and stuff like that, covered in moss, just so that there's enough cover for them to live. As far as plants, the big 3 plants in there are Cryptwin Deadeye. That's the crypt that's off to the left of the tank. Then I've also got some microsword. Like I said, it kind of grew into the back. My intention was for it to grow into the front. So I need to kind of move some. I might pull some of it up from the back and bring it to the front. I'm not sure yet. I just haven't messed with the tank. Then I also have a lot of Java moss in this tank. Like I said, that's just extra fry cover. The shrimp like it, and then when I'm selling shrimp, I can cut a little bit of Java moss and throw it in the bag so they have something to cling on to. I also recently added some red Ludwigia that I picked up from a club auction like 2 months ago, and it's growing really well. I put it in one tank and it was growing really tall, so when I did some trimmings, I decided I want to put a little bit in the shrimp tank and see how it does here. I may start trimming it and kind of lining the entire back in it just because I do like the look of it, but I need to pull out the microsword first so I have space in the back to plant it. So I'm just kind of holding off and seeing how it does in the little corner that I've got it. I've also got some Boost Wavy Leaf plants. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them in there. I have a bunch of that specific plant, and I just ran out of places to put them. I probably should pull them out of that tank. I've got another tank that I'm working on that's going to be like 10 or 15 of those boost plants, and I've got plans for it, but right now they're just kind of staying in the tank, staying alive, but they probably won't be there for much longer. Last but not least, plant-wise, of course, there is plenty of duckweed in this tank. I scoop out a ton of duckweed of this tank every week, otherwise it blocks all the lighting for the other plants. It hijacked itself into it off of one of my aquariums or plants or something. I was pretty duckweed free and going to the club auctions and bringing new fish and plants in and stuff all the time. One day it showed up in one tank, and within 2 weeks it was in every other tank, except for the 75, because I've got enough hang-on back filter that I don't have an issue with it in the 75, but every other tank, I'm constantly scooping duckweed out. As far as maintenance of the tank, I give this tank a 50% water change every week. To be honest, I haven't tested the tank in a while, but I know when I was testing it before, it was keeping the nitrates really low, and I could do a smaller water change, but I just figure with all the extra shrimp and I feed the tank a little heavy, I just kind of go ahead and do the 50% water change, and it's not that big of a deal. As far as fertilizer for the plants, I use 1 pump of Aquarium Co-op Easy Green every single week. Right after I do a water change, I just go ahead and throw it in there. And I also have Aquarium Co-op Easy Green root tabs every couple of inches throughout the soil. That's how the crypts do really well. That's how the microswords doing really well. And so that way all my plants kind of have a little bit of nutrition from all over the place. As far as feeding the livestock, I dose this tank with Bacter AE, Bacter AE, not EA. Bacter AE once a week after I do a water change. I just go ahead and give it a full dose. I haven't noticed a huge difference, but I already own it, so I kind of like, I throw it in just because I have it. I don't know if it's something I'd necessarily go buy again. I'm still kind of trying to decide for myself how much I like it. A lot of people say they like it, but I haven't noticed a huge difference. But I'm also not an optimal breeding setup, so I don't want to knock the food for that. There might be more babies, there just might be more food for the mountain minnows. The other thing I feed the tank often is Shrimp King food. My shrimp go absolutely nuts for it. I drop that in there pretty much every other day. The days that I don't drop Shrimp King in, I drop in like an Omega-1 algae wafer or some shrimp pellets or kind of something else, but the Shrimp King's kind of their main food. That's what I give them the most often. They go crazy for it and they love it. And I did actually notice an increase in numbers when I started feeding that food. For the minnows, I feed them a little bit of everything. They get everything from frozen food to flakes to pellets to co-op fry food to pretty much anything that I'm feeding whatever the rest of the tanks are. That just gets tossed in that tank as well, and the shrimp kind of clean up whatever isn't. So I feed this tank pretty heavily with frozen food, with frozen brine shrimp, and the shrimp will kind of go over all that too. So that's pretty much what I feed, and that's how I maintain the tank. And yeah, like I said, I know a lot of people have been asking for me to highlight my tanks. I've been trying to get to them as I go. The problem I've been having is I keep changing them before I get a chance to make a video on them. And then by the time I get a chance to make a video on one, I'm changing it again. And so I'm trying to get ahead before I start messing with it too much. Let me know if you guys keep white cloud mountain minnows or cherry shrimp in any of your tanks and what the setup on those are. I'm always curious to see other people's stuff. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you get notified every time I upload a video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.